Greetings and welcome to your Sunday premier political show, Inside Politics, where we evaluate the latest governance and political developments happening in the country. As always, we cherish your feedback back at home. Feel free to plug into the conversation we'll be having right here on the round table, on X at KTN News, at the Jesse Rogers, at the Emmanuel Tor. Use the hashtag Inside Politics. And as always, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Happy Easter. I'm Jesse Rogers. I'm not alone. Emmanuel Tor is joining me for the latest on the political intrigue. Good morning, Tor, and happy Easter. I hope you're well.
Good morning to you and to your panel. And remember, it is the Easter season. We are saying that in the book of actually John 8, verse 32, it says, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." And we are here to set you free from the political lies, propaganda, innuendos, and all that is inside that political landscape. And of course, there has been so much happening in this week, politically speaking. Remember, there has been, we did not have a show last Sunday, but we are back this Sunday with a bang. And on Friday, Lady Justice Dora Chepkwony of Kiambu High Court stopped the debate on the National Dialogue Committee report. She stopped some part of that report where Azimio were planning, or the Azimio team was planning to have a discussion about reopening the servers. Remember, Raila Odinga saying, "Server lazima ifunguliwe," but that reggae has been stopped temporarily. I don't know for how long. Azimio still have a chance to go to the High Court or the Court of Appeal to appeal this matter. And remember, there has been a lot of hue and cry from the Azimio side. We saw the Wiper leader, Kalonzo Musyoka, who is now kind of leading this opposition side, saying the government's hand is in this case, and that calling on Raila Odinga and President William Ruto to rein in on this matter. But maybe you will ask your panelists, Jesse, whether there's something that the president can do to stop cases from going to court, because this is something that the court said it was completed at the Supreme Court during that petition in September 2022. And that is what they call in legal terms fait accompli. I don't know whether that is the correct pronunciation, but that is what the court said. And we'll be waiting to see whether these will be forming part of the discussion in your panel, Jesse. And of course, something else that took center stage is the fake fertilizer issue that we have seen cause a lot of chaos. As you are saying, it is not even fertilizer because it is fake. Can it be fake if it is not the fertilizer? And that is the discussion that has been going on. The government has stopped the distribution of those subsidized fertilizer, saying it is substandard. And that meeting that was there with the PCS under the National Development Implementation Committee, chaired by the PCS, Musalia Mudavadi, saying that fertilizer should not have been supplied, and it has stopped that supply until that matter is heard and determined and, of course, investigated by investigative authorities. It has been a hot potato, causing a lot of commotion in the political arena, and farmers are crying that they're being sold, they're being given the short end of the stick. Something else that also took center stage that we expect to form the bigger part and chunk of the discussion is the Wetangula, or Speaker Wetangula battle, and of course having that back and forth with the governor of Trans Nzoia, George Natembeya, where Natembeya has really gone for the jugular, saying that Wetangula has failed in leading the Mulembe nation. And this is the discussion about the elusive Luhya unity that we keep talking about year in, year out. And I don't know when this will stop, and I don't know whether it is possible to have them speak in one language. That is a discussion that we'll be having in that debate. And of course, something that also took center stage is the double speak. Do we expect, I don't know, maybe Jesse, I don't know whether you've watched that story, but I did a story about Ndindi Nyoro, a member of parliament for Keharo, who is also the chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, saying KRA, the Kenya Revenue Authority, should stop collecting the taxes that are going to hurt Kenyans. I don't know, because he's the one who chairs the committee that comes up with the bills and motions that propose tax measures. And he was saying that the government should not of course, continue to hurt Kenyans. And we also saw the avocado farmers from Murang'a County and some of the members saying they passed something that they do not know, or they did not really know that there was that part that was going to hurt them. And so we'll be looking at this. And something else that also took the headlines, or also made the headlines, was the Raila succession matrix, where we saw a group called Team Ground. It is a group of young people who are coming to take over the political landscape in the opposition, saying that they need to fill the gap, and they're not filling the opposition right now that Baba, or Raila Odinga, is busy in his journey to Addis Ababa. So, Jesse, that is the match that we expect, and we'll be having that interview with Babu Owino, Member of Parliament for Embakasi East, who will be telling us more about Team Ground. So, Jesse, ground ikoaje hapo chini?
Ndiko salama to. Thanks for that update. Of course, it's been a politically heavy week, despite the holiday mood in the country, and that's why we're here as members of the Fourth Estate to articulate those issues and break them down in a way only we can. So let's get right to it. Allow me to introduce my panelists. Joining me in studio, I'm joined by Hesbon Owila, communication strategist. Good morning, happy Easter.
Good morning. Happy Easter to you too.
I hope I didn't make you miss church today.
I'll be attending church
later on. It's good. Work-life balance important. Equally joined by Kevin Osido, governance expert. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you
Karibu
so much.
sana.
Thank you so much, Jesse, and happy Easter.
Happy Easter to you too.
Asante.
It's great to have you with us. Equally joined by Dismas Mukua, political risk analyst. As always, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
And happy Easter.
Happy Easter as well.
I hope the holidays are okay.
I cannot complain.
So far, so good. Yeah.
So far, so good.
Okay, so let's get right to it. One of the issues is what Todd talked about, all to do with the alleged double speak by members of parliament when it comes to the Finance Act 2023. And we saw objections by members of parliament, mostly from the Kenya Kwanza wing, against provisions of that Finance Act 2023, as it raised a myriad of questions on why they have enthusiastically voted for it in the first place. It started with local avocado farmers, accompanied by some leaders who stopped a sensitization campaign by KRA, who were turned up to sensitize the farmers on a requirement that businesses should electronically generate and transmit their invoices to KRA through e-Teams. Later on, and the recent one, which played out this week, is the chair of the budget committee, Ndindi Nyoro, who urged KRA to engage the public before introducing new taxes. Let's listen in to some of the sentiments that were shared by leaders on this particular matter.
Na nauliza all the government, shirika zote za serikali kama KRA, na wauliza kwa heshima, as you do changes and especially increasing duty like the one we saw recently, it is important to do public participation. Unaita wasikadau pamoja, unawauliza. Na nauliza haswa mkubwa wa domestic taxes in Kenya, tafadhali hiyo maneno ya kuongeza duty from 2.5 million to 3 million, tafadhali kwanza ukatisha hiyo maneno, ita wanabiashara, mkae nao chini, kwa sababu wengi walileta bidhaa kama dola iko juu sana, wanaumia hapo, na wakiongezwa hiyo duty kwa njia ya juu sana, wataweza kuuza hizo bidhaa na hasara, ama they pass over that cost to the consumers.
Hata kama hiyo sheria ilipita, hiyo point moja ambayo inaguza primary produce of the farmer, hiyo bwana makamu wa rais, hiyo uangalie vizuri na macho mawili.
We know there is a challenge with the Finance Act. You cannot make the farmers unable to produce.
The finance bill is a very big document, and within the shortest time possible, you cannot expect a member of parliament who is so busy to have gone even to the nitty-gritties inside to know what is contained in everything.
Okay, so an MP is busy. You cannot expect them to go through the nitty-gritties of the Finance Act. And perhaps that's why imekuja kuwauma, quote unquote. So let's start with you, Kevin Osido, because a lot is happening and it seems that the Finance Act is right at the center. When it comes to U-turn by members of parliament, one group of the divide will tell you only a fool doesn't change his mind. But then the governance experts like you will actually point to inadequacies within parliament as it plays out right now. Your take on it?
Precisely, and that's really where the crust of the matter lies, Jesse, because you expect that before a bill is passed and becomes a law or an act, we have very many stages that particular piece of legislation has to go through. Actually, there are 6 steps. And one of those fundamental steps, actually 2 of them include research. And Bunge, or Parliament, has very many researchers, either at clerk level or senior directors of research, and basically people whose responsibility is to help gather information that then feed into the reality of the country's context, issues around economy, the economy, and even the politics of the day. Because largely you look at the manifestos and therefore the aspirations that the government of the day wants to be able to follow through. And to the level that a National Assembly member or a Mbunge has to indicate that we are so busy, and we take note of the fact that the haste with which the finance bill was taken through is one that already citizens had very many concerns over. And so the second issue is a place of public participation. How many of these good men and women, who in fact we refer to as honorable members, took their time to go back to their citizens, to their voters, to their constituents, and educate them, and create awareness, and speak to them, and more or less try to also gain lots of comments and recommendations from the citizens that they would therefore carry to Bunge, to the researchers. Okay. Because when the bill is being done, it's not being done in a vacuum. As I said, there are so many other things that accompany that particular process. So what is therefore happening right now is people are imagining that their members of parliament or their representatives should have represented them, which actually, from what is happening, did not happen. And that is one of the things that many Kenyans, if you look at even the report of the finance bill, very many people, I think there were over 289 plus institutions that sent their submissions to the budget committee at KICC and in the various different conversations that they were having. Yeah. The question is, did they take into account the concerns that citizens were talking about? And from what is therefore emerging, it is very clear that did not happen. Okay. Now, that therefore presents a very difficult circumstance for the common citizen. And I think for me, KRA is not even the issue, because KRA is a state agent that is supposed to help in collection of taxes, and they don't do these things by themselves. They are guided by laws, and that law is a Finance Act. Now, to the level that even the chair of the Budget Committee of the National Assembly should be the first one to point holes at a document which he very vigorously and ferociously, defended. I think that is a clear indicator of black-headedness, if I could say, and a level of treating the citizen as somebody who has nothing in the head, because we were there to look at these members of parliament really defend their positions. So what therefore happens is the role of parliament in supplementary budgeting processes, review of the Finance Act, because indeed it can be reviewed. There have been very many issues, Jesse, including the housing levy, many things that have happened. So I think that Kenya Kwanza began from a very difficult stage. They failed to put in the aspect of research in terms of what they campaigned for and the reality on the ground, and therefore the space of the citizen in giving the citizen an opportunity to also speak out and actually give them that benefit of doubt that what you are saying, we have taken it into account. As it appears, the members are now going back to begin to accuse state agents that they are supposed to be defending and working together with.
Okay, so Dismas, when you hear the chair of the Budget Committee in the National Assembly sort of call the KRA bluff, tell them, do public participation before enacting some of these measures to collect taxes, is it double-speak, bearing in mind they supported the Finance Act, as he mentioned?
The cumulative impact of the soundbites you've played is nothing but contempt for Kenyans. That is absolute contempt for Kenyans. Because what is the role of an MP? Number one, representation, oversight, and legislation. These members of the National Assembly and Senate make law. KRA acts on law as made by the members of the National Assembly. KRA on their own motion, they don't determine the tax level in Kenya, brackets or anything. They may participate in the budget making process, but the person who has the final word is the member of the National Assembly and other legislations, senators combined. Now, for a member of the National Assembly to come and say that, wait a minute, KRA, you need to engage in public participation. KRA has been given a law to implement. they have no business engaging in public participation, apart from, the normal stakeholder engagement, that you have a new legislation, this is the way it's going to apply. When they've been told to execute a certain piece of law, KRA has no capacity to suspend the law, unless somebody like Wheeler or Sido goes to court and then there is a suspension. So for them, they get a piece of law and they implement it. So that is unacceptable. Number two, the role of an MP is representation. There's a female MP who has indicated that they are very busy, they don't have time. So then why are you in the National Assembly? If your fundamental role is to represent the people who elected you, what else makes you so busy that you cannot... I mean, how can she tell us that she will not have time to sit through the act with a toothpick? And as Osita has indicated, right now, the Parliamentary Service Commission has given members of the National Assembly and Senate immense capacity to understand complicated issues. There's even a parliamentary budget office with economists, with subject matter experts who break this thing down and tell you, they do scenario analysis and sensitivity analysis. So for a member of the National Assembly or Senate, with that level of alacrity, to tell Kenyans that we are busy elsewhere, we have no time to go through legislation. In my view, that is really embarrassing. And I think that lady, that member of parliament, is a candidate for recall.
Can I be the devil's advocate here? Because, we live in Kenya. We well know what takes precedence. Toe the party line. So most of these members of parliament will vote according to what the party leader has directed. So perhaps they wouldn't have time to comb through the piece of legislation that is currently at the floor of the House. And this is a reality of the times we live in, right, Dismas?
Far from it. The party leader gives you general direction.
Okay.
You are given a general framework that this is what you want to achieve. As a member of the National Assembly, as committee members, you must apply yourself and socialize with that bill. You cannot tell us that I voted for this bill at a gunpoint. So does it mean that you are just a robot? Then it means we don't need you at the National Assembly. The Kenya Kwanza has got a manifesto. They've given the general guidelines. It's the responsibility of this member, whose name that nobody here seems to remember. It's a responsibility to go through the bill into detail.
Okay.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this is very embarrassing for Mura. Mura has elected you to go to the National Assembly, comb the bill, come up with the legislation, which serves a selfish interest, and then with alacrity, you're telling us you have no time to go through the Finance Act. It's okay if you don't have time to go through other motions, maybe Sports Act, maybe Global Warming Act, but we are talking about Finance Act. That you don't have time for the Finance Act, in my view, that is unacceptable.
All right.
And whichever constituency she comes from, because nobody seems to know her, she needs to be recalled immediately.
Interesting. So, and I'd like to bring in a different angle as you come in, because as that happened, we equally saw the sensitization process, and I mentioned it. KRA speaking to farmers, some MPs with the local farmers decide to tell the KRA guys to go back home. We don't want this sensitization. It's proper to note that the gist of ETIMS is about verifiability of deductible expenses and the visibility of transactions in the economy. So what do you make of such a move? Because we equally heard from the Deputy President mentioning there are a couple of inadequacies around the Finance Act, and we'll look into it because it's affecting the farmer. Yeah.
First, let me say that KRA has invested so much resources in trying to rebrand itself, build a solid corporate reputation and a brand reputation. And I think in the last 4 or 6 years, they've done an amazing job. And the reason why they succeeded in doing that is because as a revenue collection agency, KRA is supposed to position itself as an independent organization outside the government. Because naturally, when it is the government collecting resources, people are apprehensive. But when it's another institution like KRA, and that's how it was enshrined in the law, there's a sense in which people see that this is our money that is being collected to finance the government. So there's judicial use of the resources. And I think it's very unfortunate that members of parliament, because of their own ineptness, have put KRA in this situation where they are. Where now it is KRA that is looking as the bad person. I'll tell you for free today, just for nuisance sake, if KRA did anything outside the law, someone else would go to court and say, this is what the law says, but KRA is not implementing. True. So it doesn't matter what the deputy president or these other MPs are saying, KRA has to implement the law. And if in the implementation of the law, they went sensitizing the public, that is just a corporate social responsibility, so that you're seen to be doing the right thing to a public that understands what you're doing. Now, if there's a problem with the law, I don't think we need to blame KRA. I don't think it is right for folks like Ndindi Nyoro to, project KRA as the bad people here. They will implement the law whether Ndindi Nyoro and the likes like it or not, because that is how it is. Parliament makes laws, KRA implements, or any other agencies. But where did the rain start beating us? I will tell you for free. Any political party worth its salt must take you from the party leader. I would actually want Kenya Kwanza and UDA to follow the party leader. And before any bill is presented in Parliament, they have a rigorous, discourse around that bill, so that they disagree within the party machineries. The research that they have, the things that they are seeing now, they ought to have seen and told the party leader. So they are the ones who are letting their party leader down. If they didn't point out these things, if they didn't know that their farmers would suffer the consequences of these things, it is because they didn't do the work. The work of the party leader is to provide the overarching direction that we want to generate this amount of revenue. This is how we are going to go about it. Okay. The work of members of parliament is to socialize with that and interact with it within the context of how will it affect our people. They did not do that, and it is embarrassing that they come on air and tell us that they didn't do the work that we are paying them to do. Then lastly, let me just say, I also think Kenya Kwanza got it wrong from the word go. And how did they get it wrong? If you want to increase revenues, it's a good thing. But if you want to increase revenue by, getting rid of that ladder that is supposed to bring guys from the bottom of the pillar, of the pyramid, to some level where they will include themselves naturally to the tax-paying bracket, then you are killing the real hustlers that you promised to protect. What this government needs to do is very simple. At least put a ladder for the guys at the bottom of the pyramid. Make sure that these avocado farmers, make sure that these farmers who are being told to get computers, hire people who can do invoicing, and then are tech savvy to relay this information to KRA through e-teams. Get them to a level where they will naturally find that the best thing to do, so that they get into the tax bracket and you tax them. But if you pull out the ladder, and that is what they've done with the e-teams, what they're doing is that they're making life difficult for everyone at the bottom of the pyramid, but at the same time, they want to generate revenues from them. It is counterproductive, and it's what we are seeing. We are seeing the ripple effect of the Finance Act. And what most members of parliament seem not to understand, the Finance Act is actually a revenue generation act. So if they thought they were passing it and they were going to generate revenues from heaven, okay, or from the vacuum, right, then they are mistaken. That revenue is coming from the real people. They need to understand the real people and represent the real people from a point of knowledge.
Okay, so we should definitely throw the aspect of voting under duress and what of that shouldn't appear.
That's
feature
just,
anyway.
Yeah, that is just letting down their party leader. And it's very unfortunate that you have a leadership that has a direction, but you're doing absolutely nothing to support that direction as a member of parliament.
Just voting under duress happens in a military dictatorship, whereby you've got a junta ruling and the dictator's word is as good as law. Okay. As Osid has indicated, 6 steps, but within the National Assembly, you have 3 steps. Mm-hmm. And even these MPs who are complaining, they have again not demonstrated that in fact they are committed to Morah, that they're proposing a supplementary budget or even coming up with solid amendments. So essentially what they're doing is they're playing to the public gallery, okay, while Morah is sweating. After that session, believe you me, they were having a pepper steak and whiskey.
So as you come in, Osido, because this is yet another issue that has been politicized, and we've seen efforts from the government to try and curb bad situation from getting worse when it comes to the fertilizer scam in the country. And of course, the Agriculture Cabinet Secretary has been under fire though he has instructed NCPB and Kenya Seeds outlets countrywide to remain open during this Easter holiday to facilitate the hardworking farmers' needs in the ongoing planting season. But remember, earlier on, the PS gave directives that, you know what, this NPK fertilizer, put a hold on it as we investigate all this. So there's an aspect of doublespeak from the ministry, but equally, let's talk about this fertilizer scam. For a government that has pegged its success on agriculture being one of the pillars, you know, how big of an issue is this? Where should the buck stop?
The buck stops at the presidency, not just at the presidency, at the door of the president. Because one, you are the leader rallying everyone around the issues. And one of those issues, as you rightfully said, is food security. Food security for our country is agriculture. So the president needs to begin to engage his food soldiers, the cabinet secretary, Mheshimiwa Lithuka Minturi, and the people that he's working with. Of course, noting how governance is done in our country. So the role of the cabinet secretary and the role of the PS, and even the institutions and the agents of government that support processes that therefore give government its legacy. So for instance, Kenya Bureau of Standards, KEBS, where are they in this discussion insofar as quality and verifiability of the authenticity of the fertilizer is concerned? It is quite disturbing that it is the farmer who has to realize that this thing is fake, and that government is saying, because I heard the CS telling farmers, take it to the laboratory. It is not my responsibility as a farmer. And Jesse, that therefore really dents the trust and confidence of Kenyans in government insofar as how certain things are being done, particularly insofar as feedback and concerns that really affect Kenyans. Because if you look at the number of people who therefore are in the agriculture sector and are relying on government to be able to do the right thing so that we get the right produce and so that we are able to, deal with other issues, including whether we are buying and selling our maize, importing it and all that, including whether we are actually producing it and just using it for food in the family. It takes us back to asking ourselves, are Kenyans on their own? The third issue is the inside politics of the fertilizer. Where did this fertilizer come from? Who produced it? In most of the areas that we have seen some of the samples, they're even branded. Whose brands are those? And so in my view, really the buck stops at the president, and he needs to give the country direction insofar as how we are going to deal with this issue, and that the matter does not resurrect, as we are hoping that Christ, being Easter, resurrection is happening. All right. This is happening in sugar, is happening in maize, is now happening in fertilizer. The buck has to stop somewhere. And people who are suspected to be the people who are dealing this need to be arrested, Jesse, and if found culpable, charged.
Briefly, as you come in on that, because I saw a tweet by Dennis Itumbi quoting the agriculture CS saying, we are responsible government, we cannot compromise on the quality of fertilizer, do not listen to stories being peddled. Is denying this a proper move in terms of managing the communication around?
No, I mean, it's a complete circus, and you can't have everyone in every public gathering speak and say, we are speaking for State House, you're speaking for the president. It's actually embarrassing. And they're speaking nothing about the crisis. This is a crisis. A responsible government would have a holding statement and tell Kenyans, this is exactly what is happening. And reassure Kenyans that as a government, this is what we are doing. It doesn't matter where this issue of fake fertilizer is coming from. It is the responsibility of the government of the day to deal with it. And they're not dealing with it. They keep pussyfooting. Everyone is talking about it. But if you ask yourself, what exactly are they saying? Absolutely nothing. Have they investigated the genesis of this, fake fertilizer? Have they talked to farmers? Because the consequences are going to be big. There are farmers who bought this fertilizer in bulk. There are farmers who've invested these fertilizers in their farms. Have they looked at the consequences in terms of food production in the next 3-6 months? They've not. And we need someone to address this thing from a very comprehensive point of view and reassure Kenyans.
All right. Dismiss briefly, 30 seconds or so. He said the buck stops with the president. Others mention the National Cereals and Produce Board should be held liable, equally KEBS, because these gunias have the stamp of KEP. So where exactly does this leave the farmer? Yeah.
Allow me to take a minute. Anybody who compromises our fertilizers and anybody who compromises our seeds is compromising Kenya's food security. And the moment you compromise Kenya's food security, you are compromising our national security. The farmers have invested heavily. So they think they're buying fertilizer, but in fact, they understand they're buying stones. They're buying urine, they're buying stuff, and then you begin to wonder what is happening. But Owila has mentioned that a responsible government should have issued a holding statement, which it has done. The NDIC committee chaired by Honorable Musalia Mudavadi issued a statement, and they indicated that suspect fertilizer has been put on hold, is not going to be sold. But more important, it's the integrity of the entire process. So you did ask, who is supposed to be held responsible? It's the procuring entity. And you know, in supply chain management, it's very basic that if you want to procure anything, first of all, is the person who is going to offer you a service, do they have capacity to deliver? And do they have integrity? Now, if the National Cereals and Produce Board did not establish that their suppliers have got integrity and they've got capacity, then we know where the buck stops. And you know, we cannot allow this to go on. You know, leaving fertilizer alone, there's also the issue of the edible oil, which is lying elsewhere.
Fake seeds as well, we've heard of that.
So in my view, the agencies should do quick investigations so that these persons who are compromising Kenya's food security, Kenya's national security, are put behind bars.
Well, let's take a short break on that particular note. Do stay with Inside Politics. We'll be back with a lot more. Thank you for staying with us.